What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of All In with Nate. Of course, this is the first time I've been able to do a recap right after the game. Of course, a lot of the game's been at home, but man, before I even get into the game, let me say this one thing and one thing only: the Atlanta Falcons season could potentially be over at this point because when you lose, don't get me wrong. Did I come into this Viking game thinking we're going to win? No, I'm not going to lie. I didn't think so. I didn't see it. The Vikings have been a really good football team. Sam Darnold probably is going to win Comeback Player of the Year, potentially. He's doing enough. And then Minnesota's a pretty good team. I'm not going to lie. I think all of us probably thought that Minnesota was going to fall off after losing Kirk. Of course, we ended up getting Kirk Cousins, and then they got J.J. McCarthy. He went down for the season. But the Vikings prevailed throughout it. And these guys are 11-2 now. They're a really good team. They're a really good team. So, I'm not going to take anything from them. But today showed the difference between a playoff team and a bad football team. Guess which one we are? We're a bad football team. It was all good 4 weeks ago. We were 6-3, counting off beating the Cowboys. Have not won a game since. It is December the 8th. That game was November the 3rd. At this point, the Falcons have put themselves, is the division over? No. However, with Tampa now at 7-6, you have to win out and hope that the Buccaneers drop a game. You lose any game coming up over the next, 4 weeks remaining, the season's over. You only have 4 games remaining. Luckily, you have games against teams that you should be. Note what I'm saying. Teams that you should be. I'm not counting any win for the Falcons at this point. Because look at where we're at right now. Today was a bad loss all around. The defense was unbelievably horrible. And we've had bad games on defense this season. But today took the cake. Sam Darnold looked like Patrick Mahomes today. Those receivers hadn't scored touchdowns in weeks or even months against Atlanta Falcons. They were a fantasy. If you have Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison or Sam Darnold on your team, you won your match. Your game is over. Trust me. That's how bad the Falcons were today. So, again, it's no excuse for how bad this team is at this point. And, again, as you get deeper into your schedule, this is what happens when you don't address certain issues in the offseason. That's where we're at this point. The Falcons didn't address certain issues this offseason, and now here we are. They are in a position where they could miss the playoffs at this point. It's bad. It's bad at this point. And Kirk Cousins he's regressed every single week. It's getting worse. Unfortunately, it's getting worse. It's getting worse at this point. And it's to a point now where if it was any other season, I would be on the start Michael Penix train. Unfortunately, we are still, quote unquote, in the thick of things, not by much, but we're still in the thick of things as far as a playoff appearance. So you don't want to go ahead and throw this man in the fire right now. However, if the Falcons was to drop one of these next 3, go ahead and let Michael Penix play. I think he needs to start in 2025. However, you're now getting to a position where this division could get away from you because the Buccaneers have clawed their way back to take the lead in the division. They got 2 tough games coming up with the Chargers and possibly with Dallas. However, you can't bank on another team. That's the purpose of winning your division games when you won your division games. You were 4-1 in your division, and you swept the team that is now in first place. But this is what happens when you don't handle your business. The Denver game, we got shellacked. The Saints game, we blew. Last week, we blew. Today was a somewhat competitive game for a certain period of time, and it got away from us. So, again, these are games that you're losing. Again, this is not a bad football team that we went against. It's what we do in these football games that cost you. And at this point, it's looking really, really bad. I'm not gonna lie. Guys like Justin Simmons, who was one of our signings in free agency this offseason, I see why Denver let him go. He's not what he once was. He's not the all-pro guy that we've seen for years in Denver. He's not that guy anymore. Or maybe it's a combination of two things. Maybe it's the one thing with this team, and maybe it's another thing with his talent at this point, because he sat in free agency for months. Also, the lack of another solid corner, which we've been talking about for multiple seasons now, shows in games like this. Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson are one of the better receiving corps in the NFL. Today it showed. When you go against a really good receiving corps, it's going to show up like this. And again, they did not have AJ Terrell with Justin Jefferson most of the day. They were in it's a scheme. I don't know what scheme they call out there, but it's not working. It's not working when you don't have the talent and you're trying to man these elite receivers and getting cooked. Justin Jefferson, I'll have the stat line up here soon, had a field day. Addison had a field day. That team feel good about themselves right now. We look bad. And what makes it worse, guys like Matthew Judon, he just got his first sack and God knows when today. Not impressive. This is a bad football team at this point. But again, you're running into a situation where you're not going to have a lot of time left to recover from this division. You got a Monday Night Football game next week at Vegas. You got the Giants and the Panthers, who are both clearly tanking in the coming weeks. But you still got the Commanders. Dan Quinn's had that football team looking really good over the last couple of weeks. They're in the position for a wild card appearance. They're on a bye this week. But again, you still got one more really tough road game. But you now have put yourself in a position where you have to win out. And all of us as Falcon fans, I feel bad for us as Falcon fans at this point, because most of us thought this division was over. 6-3, you got the Bucks had injuries with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and those guys. You would have thought the division was over. But unfortunately, they didn't put this division away. I remember doing a show right before the Saints game and said, you're a game or two away from putting this division away, and they haven't won since. These are games. This is the type of stuff that get coaches fired. This type of stuff that get rosters blown up. But again, there's issues all over this roster. It's not one glaring issue. There's a lot, but it's showing up in games like this. Kirk Cousins continues to get worse. He continues to get worse. Kirk, not my cousin. He continues to get worse. He has not thrown a touchdown pass in the last 4 weeks, which was the Dallas game. He has thrown he's leading the league in interceptions. I thought we were behind it with Desmond Ridder, but of course not. He's leading the league in interceptions. At this point, he only needed to come here to game manage his football team, yet he still continues to overdo things, forcing the ball in double coverage when the pressure's breaking down. We know our tackles aren't good, but you're throwing in double coverage, throwing interceptions, forcing in the ball in the end zone. He's thrown the ball to Kirk. To Drake London, to Darnell Mooney. Guys have broken out in the offense, but it's the turnovers that will kill a team every single time. It's simple as that. That is the difference between a great football team and a bad football team. When you turn the ball over consistently like we have over the last few weeks, you're going to lose every time. Plain and simple. It's not even about the talent at this point. But when you're losing games like this, you surrender the division at this point. I'm not even banking on what happens. You have to start back winning at this point. You got to get one win. We're not talking about what you can do down the stretch. You need to win one game first before we can even consider discussing the division at this point. We can't talk about that right now. The Falcons, I'm checking the stat right now. The last time the Falcons didn't turn the ball over was at Tampa, October 27th. That's not impressive. A turnover each week is bad. Kirk Cousins, I think he threw 3 picks today. He threw 2. But it's ridiculous at this point. You're now watching this team continue to regress, and it's embarrassing as a fan because we're going on 7 years, 8 years now with a losing record. It's bad. But you went from 6-3 to this. It's not too much you can really say positive about this team at this point. Look at this guy right here, man. Y'all picking number 1 in the draft. Get out my mentions. But once again, this is bad football. Bad football teams lose like this. Also, Kyle Pitts. It's time to go ahead and call Kyle Pitts' experience in Atlanta a bust. Straight up. It's time to call the Kyle Pitts experience a bust in Atlanta. You drafted a man number 4. He balled under Matt Ryan year 1. He didn't have the best quarterback play, but at the same time, you can't keep defending the Kyle Pitts situation. Oh, Kirk don't. Yeah, Kirk missed him a couple of times, but let's be real. If you're watching the games week in and week out, and let's be real. I'm at half of the games. So I'm not hearing everything that the commentary is saying. However, when you go back and listen to it, he's running a lazy route. Oh, Kyle Pitts not doing this. Oh, Kyle Pitts not doing that. So the media's lying too. These former national football players are lying too. It's getting redundant at this point. And it's not an excuse when you got guys on the roster who have stepped up and performed. That experience needs to end. Straight up. That experience is over. Just get rid of Kyle Pitts. He may go be successful elsewhere, but his time in Atlanta is over. After this season, I would be shocked if the Falcons step onto the field in 2025 with him as the tight end. The Kirk Cousins situation, I know a lot of folks are ready to say, hey, let's go ahead and bench Kirk Cousins, but you paid this man, you guaranteed this man $90 million. So, I mean, the shit might as well go down with who you paid at this point. I don't want him to continue to be the starting quarterback. I think next season will be Michael Penix's time. But I don't want him coming into this situation just like Des Ridder came into this situation 2 years ago in a mess. That's not for you to have to do. This guy put us in this situation, let him get us out of it if he can. And if he can't, cool. Bench him. He should be the highest paid backup quarterback in the National Football League. You got to just chop that contract up to where it at. That's where you're at. Let me hit these comments real quick. The rest of we folded bad. We folded horribly, man. What's going on? My boy said Kirk finesse Cousins, man. Kirk Cousins got to have the greatest agent of all time, and his finesse skills is top tier. His Hall of Fame finesse skills. Because as you see, the man has regressed. GIS Wizard checking in said Cousins was overpaid in Minnesota, now he's overpaid in Atlanta. Absolutely. Katie said, Kirk, not my Cousins. If you were coach / GM, how do you manage the court? Oh, you just asked that. Yeah. I personally would give him the rest of the season. I'm giving him the rest of the season to do whatever you can. I mean, you got to fix the situation however you can. But if the Falcons finish with a losing record or miss the playoffs, that's the end of the Kirk Cousins experience. You drafted a guy number 8, time to give him his chance. You got to cut your losses. You cannot be afraid to cut your losses at this point. But it's an expensive loss. I'm not going to lie. But the Falcons have multiple issues that is beyond the quarterback. He's the bigger issue right now, but there are bigger issues on this roster. To be really honest, the Falcons need to go ahead and let a lot of these vets go. The stupid thing is we went and got a lot of guys on this team thinking it's the playoff run. We're gonna win now. Where's the wins? I don't see them. We ain't won a game since November the 3rd. Where are the wins? I just want to know that. Where are the wins? But you got to go ahead, move on from Judon, move on from Justin Simmons, move on from I'm going to go ahead and hurt some fans' feelings. It's time to dead the Grady Jarrett experience too. Grady has been a solid Falcon all his career. His time is up. Jake Matthews' time is up. It's time to go ahead and replace those positions with younger players, cheaper players, you got to rebuild on both lines. We don't have the pass. There was, by the way, one of the touchdowns that Justin Jefferson caught. Justin Simmons got back there, didn't make the tackle. This turns into basically a free play where you're out here doing a scrimmage drill and you're throwing the ball down the field for a touchdown. Those are things that you cannot coach. That's terrible on the players. You can't coach bad plays like that. It is getting to a point now where teams are exposing it. And then we also have a first-year offensive coordinator, first-year defensive coordinator. So these veteran teams are going to start exposing it. And then let's also go back to Kirk. There are certain sacks that the quarterback is taking he wouldn't take if he was mobile. That's the issue that you're running into a lot of issues because let's be real. The pocket passer era is dead in the National Football League, and we need to dead that experience ourselves. Plain and simple. Let's see. The rest of our defense has been up and down all season. The quarterback can play well, but if our DBs is getting cooked like a rotisserie chicken, we don't have a chance of winning nothing all season. Yeah, it's the bad part about it is we came into the season knowing there was the certain issues that the Falcons have had were not issues that just popped up this season. You thought you addressed your pass rush with Judon. Judon's done nothing. He's done nothing at this point. Who else? Grady is beyond his experience at this point. He's a veteran. He is no longer. But also, I'll say this too: the Falcons' biggest problem. You are a team that has 4-3 personnel trying to run a 3-4, and it doesn't fit you. It shows. It shows in a very, very bad way. But again, it's to a point now where you can't really even defend it. And then outside of AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates, your other side of the ball your other side of the secondary can't really cover. Mike Hughes shouldn't be a CB2 nowhere. D. Alford is no better than a CB4. But these are the things that you get when you don't have a pass rush. You don't have a guy that can defend for more than 5 or 6 seconds, but it goes back to your pass rush. Your linebacker core, one of the worst in the league. It's straight up at this point. This team they are who they are. And then again, your QB play has regressed so much to the point now where you can't overcome it at this point for the Falcons. So you're running into multiple issues that you thought you addressed, and it's not going to just be this offseason that you can, this season that you can address it. You're going to have to really attack it either in the draft. To be brutally honest, I don't even know what our number one need is, to be real with you. It's a pass rush. We could legitimately use a franchise linebacker. We could use a solid corner. We could use solid tackles. I mean, the Falcons have certain trench issues that their better teams in the NFL don't have. Your Detroit's not dealing with that. Your Philly's not dealing with that. Your Buffalo's, your Kansas City. That Kansas City got bad tackles. I will say that. But some of your better teams in the NFL are not dealing with this issue, or they scheme it up to where they can mask those issues. That's why they're the top teams in the NFL at this point. And that's why we are in the position that we're in. Let me get the comments. Darrell said, don't bring back Justin Simmons either. It's a reason. Yeah, I said that earlier. I think that there's a reason that he was in free agency as long as he was, and it shows. He's out of position a lot. He was out of position on the actual first touchdown to Jordan Addison. That was a really bad throw by Sam Darnold. However, I mean, if you got time to go back and get the ball, go get it. Kyrie, what's going on, bro? It said pocket passers isn't being dead, isn't true, far from it. Let me put it like this. When I'm looking at pocket pass, my terminology for pocket passer at this stage in the NFL is a guy to just stay in the pocket, don't run, don't do anything. Like, for example, my boy, he's a Lions fan. Jared Goff might be one of the better. He's still like he'll get out the pocket though if you need to go make a play. That's how I feel. Or if you're gonna go have a pocket passer, you need to have a very stout offensive line to be able to hold up. And that's another thing. If you got a finesse offensive line, a pocket passer doesn't fit that. That's why it's so far and few in the NFL now. Some of these guys see a play break down, they got to go get 5 yards. Kirk doesn't do that. Kirk I think he's rushed 3 times this season for like any significant game. One of them today was taken back on a holding call. Let's see. What's going on, bro? Said body sitting in the pocket. And that's what I'm saying. Nobody's in the pocket no more. Nobody's in the pocket anymore. And that's what it comes down to. Some of the issues that the Falcons are running into is when you go get some of the better defensive units, like next week, Max Crosby's going to be a handful for Jake Matthews and what's the old boy name? Caleb McGarry. You still got some elite pass rushers that you're going to face who will pick on that all day. And if they keep him in the pocket, guess what? They're going to have fun in that pocket. That's a field day for a defensive end. Let me go to GIS Wizard. He said Cousins go to the Hall of Fame for his contract. Yes, he do. One of the greatest negotiators of all time. Definitely a great negotiator. Need to rebuild the trenches from the ground? Yes, we do. And the issue, I'll say this. I think we are pretty good at the guard position on offense. Throwing out the offense. Offensive line, Lindstrom is one of the best in the league. What's the old boy? He's one of the best in the league. And excuse me, I'm sorry. Bergeron's not bad. He's a young guy, but he's not bad. But the tackles both are consistently getting whooped each week. That's one issue that you're running into. And then Drew Dalman, I ride the fence with Drew Dalman. Y'all know how I feel about Drew Dalman, one week or another. Defensively, there's nobody that's on the defensive line that I'm just like, this is a guy you got to worry about at this stage of his career. Grady used to be that guy, but Grady has had several injuries. He's at the past end of his career. So it's now like you can't really depend on him to be your guy to rush the passer no more. That's not going to happen. And so I agree 100% that the trenches, and if you look at, like I said, you look at the better teams in the league, the trenches, you can depend on those trenches to get there. And then again, we still are one of the worst teams in the league in sacking the quarterback. We can't stop. We cannot get off the field on third down. You don't get a lot of pressure, so teams can sit in the pocket and dot you. Also, the Falcons, I don't know I can't wait to see the stat line after this game, but the Falcons are one of the worst teams in the league in time possession on defense. So, again, you're not sustaining the drives on offense, and you're not really doing anything productive on defense. So, it's a tough situation for the Falcons at this point. Gary King was going, he said the penalties are, yes, we are a very undisciplined team. That goes back to coaching right there. We have a lot of holding penalties that stall out of drives. Carlos Espinoza, what's going on, man? This first time I've seen you on the tier. He said, "Hey, I like that nickname for Sam Darnold. He's been balling. He should be the comeback player of the year. Truth be told, he really should be." He said, "I agree. Mobility is the need at the quarterback position, especially on bootlegs and play actions, which I don't believe Zach Robinson gets enough of." Yes, our play calling is predictable because we're in that pistol a lot, and I don't know if that a lot of it has to do with the lack of Kirk mobility, or it's just a young coordinator. But that pistol just don't fit. It don't fit us at this point. So might as well play Michael Penix. I understand that. There's a lot of folks that feel that way too. And that could be a result also of Kirk still not being and that's another issue that could be one that's not being discussed by the Falcons is Kirk not being 100%, which at this stage, you're too far in the season and we're on the outskirts of the postseason to even be at this point. So they should start Penix next week. Yeah, I don't see them changing quarterbacks this season. They just seem stubborn. That their coaching staff in the front office just seems stubborn at this point. But they're going to have to do something. And I agree. We don't get pressure on opposing teams. But let me pull up the statistics from this game. Let me go bring that up on the screen. 1 second. Oh, let me keep this before I want my yes. For you all that are not season ticket holders, the Falcons charged $1 to lock in the playoff invoice for the 2024 postseason. Falcons, read the room. You haven't won a game since before the election. Let that sink in. The Falcons have not won a game before the election. So we did not know who our president was going to be the last time the Falcons won a football game in the National Football League in the year of 2024. And we're talking about the playoffs. You're now in second place at 6-7. The record you had last year with Desmond Ridder. The record you had, I want to say you had it in 20. No, you didn't have it in 2022. But you are sitting at 6-7 again. Nothing new. Nothing new. But you're talking about the playoffs. Please don't waste our time, ticket office, talking about the playoffs when you're putting that product on the field. And by the way, let me just be the first one to say it. I hate people that's notion is, the fans will come out when they're winning. This has been a really good season as far as the fans showing up. We have some good teams coming there too, but you got to be able to convince your fan base to stick with it. You sold out season tickets. I'm sure some of these folks going to give season tickets up in 2025. I promise you they will. They bought into the team and you're 6-7. You better figure something out and figure it out fast, or you're on the verge of the Falcons having a 7th straight losing season. That's just the direction you're headed to. Our mom, what's going on? My boy said it's time to switch the penance. Yes, I can agree with that too. I can agree with that. The offense needs to spark. I just don't know if they are going. I don't know if they're going to be prideful enough to not do it. Because some coaches want you to, like we had that with Arthur Smith. Some coaches want to convince you that what they're doing is correct and it's not. It's ridiculous, man. I hate it. But let me bring up the stats from the game real quick. I'm gonna go full screen with the stat line. I'm gonna bring this comment down. Let's go to the box score, as you see. So I'll come back on the screen. Come back on the screen a little bit. Okay, all right. So going back to the stat line. Atlanta's passing. Kirk Cousins, 23 of 37, 344, and 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions. You're throwing the ball for nothing, basically. You're throwing picks. Sam Darnold, 22 of 28 for 347, 5 touchdown passes. The defense got 4 sacks in the game. QB rating of 157.9. Do y'all know what the perfect rating is in the National Football League? 158.3. He dang near almost had a perfect QB rating today. He'll clearly be the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, thanks to the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, got a Vikings fan checking in. Minnesota Vikings fan here. Try to warn you. Hey, listen, we know what we were going into dealing with the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, excuse me. You talking about Kirk Cousins? Oh my God, I know y'all are happy to be off that Kirk Cousins situation. Sam Darnold's been balling for y'all, man. A lot of folks were saying that about Kirk Cousins, and we had bad QB situations since Matt Ryan left, and we were just hoping that it worked out. But it don't, man. It don't. Would the Falcons trade Kirk if they could eat a good portion of his salary? The Browns need a QB, and Stefanski may want a familiar face. I think we need some new names in the front office. It depends on the front office. This front office don't seem like they would do that, but another front office would. I mean, they need to go ahead and embrace your rookie at this point, who's going to be your second-year guy next season, because this guy's a waste of time. Yeah, $180 million. $180 million. Could have paid that to Daniil Hunter and other players on the team. And Deontay, what's going on, my boy? He said, this is where I said this last week, that if the Falcons had a losing season, to fire Terry Fontenot. I do not care that, and everybody like, well, he made this move, that move, that move, that move, that move, and that move. I do not care. We have not made the playoffs with him at GM. This is his second head coach with him at GM. How many times are you going to defend this? You can't. You can't. You have another losing season. Somebody needs to be replaced, whether it's front office, whether it's in the coaching staff. Listen, I'm not saying fire Raheem Morris, but if they did, I'm not going to be mad. But somebody don't need to come back in 2025. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Fats clear the front office. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way because the front office didn't change. With that being said, I don't want the Browns to trade for him. Oh yeah, you definitely want to deal with that mess. Yeah, I was stoked from the get, even before we saw what Carolina was capable of. Kirk is too expensive to be able to afford the pieces around needed. I respect that. Yeah, and that's where the Falcons are kind of at now. Like, you got talent on this team, but you can't have a quarterback that's inconsistent taking you down, and then you have these other glaring issues to where it's now starting to become a problem elsewhere on the team. And that's what we're going to run into coming into that season, which is why I would go ahead and move on to the Michael Penix era next season. I don't think that they're going to do it this year. I think it needs to happen next year. Get rid of Terry Pitt from Proud Family out. Zach Robinson, Raheem Morris. I think the coordinators may potentially be gone. I don't know if, depending on if Terry's gone, Raheem probably stay another year. But I think that they don't have a really good. They have a short leash, to be honest with you. If they do clear from office, who's just like, I don't know. That's a conversation I had to have once I see who's available. I'll say that. Get them. I'll take Miss Hoke. Listen, his era's over too. The only way you guys start Penix this year is if the playoffs are. Thank you. That's exactly what I said. If the playoffs are totally dead, which a loss next week could possibly do that, they may move into the Penix era as early as the Giants game. But I don't see it happening this year. I think the Falcons still got too easy of a remaining schedule for them to just straight up go to the Michael Penix era now. I think they're going to still try to see if Kirk can get them there. Now let Morris stay. He's getting to the back end of stuff. Everybody else can go. Yeah, I feel the same way. Let me go back to the statistics. Bijan Robinson, 22 for 92 and a touchdown. Tyler Algier, 9 versus 3 and a touchdown. The Falcons got to give more carries to Tyler Algier. We all know this. Bijan's been a really solid running back for the Falcons this season. However, he has to they need to balance his amount of touches, because I don't want it to get to a situation where the Falcons they're overdoing it. I don't want them to overdo it at this point, because he's one of the talented up and coming running backs in the league. I don't want him to get stuck I don't want him to run into the Cadillac Williams situation. If a lot of you that may not have followed the league way back when, Tampa ran Cadillac into the ground, and running backs are a dime a dozen at this point. You cannot change that type of talent. So that's where I feel on that. As far as the Vikings, Aaron Jones, 13 of 73 and a touchdown. I was surprised he didn't go crazy like I thought he would. Cam Akers, 5 of 37, no touchdown. Sam Darnold had a run here and there. And Nick Mullins, I think, Nick Mullins? I don't know. But that's the numbers as far as the rushing total. Let's go to the receiving. Darnell Moneyman Mooney, 6 for $142, no touchdown. It's sad because Darnell's been balling for the Falcons. He's been balling. I got to give that man his props. He's been balling for the Falcons. I came down to here because I didn't want it to be blurry on the screen. Ray McLeod, 8 for 98. Drake London, 5 for 70. Kyle Bust Pitts, 1 catch for 14 yards. He also dropped the touchdown in the end zone late in the game. Charlie Warner almost had as many receptions, almost had as many yards as Kyle Pitts. That should tell you the state of the Falcons at tight end right now. It ain't one. Bijan, 2 catches for 9. Over on look at the Vikings side. Jordan Addison had Madden numbers, 8 for $133 and 3 touchdowns. Terrible coverage on a couple of them. There's a video of D Offer going around right now on social media. He might have played the worst blown coverage in history on that 1 touchdown to Justin Jefferson. Jetta's the best receiver in the NFL, 7 for $132, 2 touchdowns. He does what Jettas does best. Every pass he had thrown his direction, he caught it. TJ Hawkinson, 445. The other guys, they really had to do much. Those two cooked the secondary the whole game. They cooked all game. Let's go down to this. Raymond McLeod had that fumble that he lost on the kick return that ended up turning into another Vikings touchdown. CJ Ham, he had a fumble, but they recovered it, of course. Caden Ellis led the team in tackles again. 10 tackles, 7 solos, a sack, and a tackle for a loss. Caden Ellis is a pass rusher, not a linebacker, but I mean, they don't fit him right in the scheme. J.C. Bates, 9 for 4. Look at Justin Simmons. He had 5 tackles. I don't know how. I mean, he's been pitiful this whole season for the Falcons. It's probably just the Chiefs game he's been bad. Eddie Goldman had a sack. D. Alford got 3 tackles. I don't know what he called himself doing. Clark Phillips had 3 tackles. Nate Lamb 3. Zach Harrison 3. Judon got his first sack in about 50 years. That was a waste of a 3rd round pick. I need my 3rd round pick back in New England. Grady Jarrett, 2 tackles. Lorenzo Carter, 2 tackles. Troy Anderson, 2 tackles. David Onyemata had a sack. Ebike's been playing a little bit better as a pass rusher over the last couple of weeks. However, I mean, we lost. He gave up 42 points, so can't really give too many props on that side. On defense for the Vikings, Blake Cashman led tackles, 7 tackles, 5 solos. Good pass breakup. I think Josh Metellus also. So Josh Metellus, he had a pick in this game too. Fabian Monroe, he former Falcon, 5 tackles. Harrison Smith, 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 for a loss. Jalen Redmond, he had 2 big tackles for a loss. He stopped Bijan on 2 plays. The tackles is kind of even. They only had 1 sack, which was Jamin Davis. He had got a really good pressure on Bijan Roberts. He just couldn't pick the block up. That ended one of the drives. So that's the tackles. Let me catch some of these comments up real quick. Terry Fondo drafted Kyle Pitts, by the way. Pitts looking like a bust. Yeah, he got to go. He's definitely got to go. And Judon, yeah, he's got to go too. I feel like we can do the combo with Bijan and Tyler like we have with Coleman and Free. I say that too, but you got to have the coordinator that can call that up, and we don't do it enough. We are pretty low as far as rushing in the NFL, and the Falcons have 2 of the better running backs in the league, but we don't feed them. They came into the game 14th in rushing, so I don't know what's going to be after today, but I mean, they're a top half of the league rushing offense, but they don't use them enough. And that's the annoying part about the Falcons at this point. Get down to interceptions. Of course, we didn't pick anybody off, but Josh Metellus and Byron Murphy Jr. both had interceptions in this game. Of course, as you see, kick returns, 1, I think it was 2 on their side, 1 on our side. Youngo didn't miss a field goal. Will Reicher actually missed a field goal today. Pian only punted 1 time. Ryan White only punted twice. Let me go to the game stats. That's your box score breakdown. Falcons actually had more first downs than the Vikings. 7 of 13 on 3rd, but the Vikings were 8 of 12 on 3rd down. 8 of 12 on 3rd down. Of course, no defense is going to look good when you're 8 of 12 on 3rd down. It's just not going to happen. The Falcons actually ran more plays than the Vikings, had more yards than the Vikings, had 1 less drive than the Vikings. Out through them, but look at the difference. 22 of 28 guys versus 23 of 37 and 2 picks. Led in rushing, the Falcons had a god-awful 12 penalties. This is a very undisciplined ball club. That goes on coaching. 12 penalties for 127 yards. You almost had as many penalty yards as you had more penalty yards than the Vikings had rushing. How do you defend that? You can't. And it's weird. We actually won the time of possession, which is something we don't normally do. We won the time of possession. And on paper, like you beat yourselves, but when you watch the game, this game got away from them in the 4th quarter quick. But these are the stats. So the Falcons have a Monday Night Football game at Vegas. I'm not looking forward to it. We should win the game if the Falcons actually know how to play football again. But again, the Falcons put themselves in a very, very bad situation. I brought my title from earlier this week. The Atlanta Falcons have created a mess because they have. They created a mess. And at this point, the Falcons, brutally speaking, the Falcons have 4 games remaining. The 4 games are against the Raiders, the Giants, the Commanders in Washington. That time has not been set yet. They should probably be dropping that time probably next week. and then the last game of the season at home against Carolina. Realistically, the Falcons should win 3 of them 4 games if they play competent football. You should win 3 of your next 4. Unfortunately, because you lost so many games in this stretch, you now straight up need to win out. Your best bet of making the playoffs is straight up winning out. That's just the reality you're at. You drop a game, you might as well get ready for the draft. That's just the God honest truth at this point. But they have nobody to blame but themselves. I personally, I'm gonna be brutally honest. Love my team, long-time season ticket holder. I checked out on the Falcons last week. That game against the Chargers was pathetic coming off the bye. I'm going to be at the games, of course, against the Giants and the Panthers, but I checked out on them last week because that's pathetic football that we've been seeing since the Denver game. They were bad in Denver. They were horrible on offense last week. So at this point, the Falcons are they're in a bad spot. And let's be honest, this division is not good. No disrespect to none of the teams in the division. The division is bad at this point. The Bucs have crawled their way back into the lead of the division with injuries and everything. So it just shows you how bad the division is. The New Orleans Saints fired their coach and they're a game behind us. And we were 4 or 5 games up on them at one point. So just bad football all around the board for the Falcons. I don't blame anybody that doesn't want to deal with that mess anymore. I'm a diehard fan, but I don't blame anybody that just checks out on the team. Can't do this without the blame when the team. I mean, and that's another topic for another game for another week that I've talked about before on here, but I ain't even gonna get into that right now. That may be an off-season conversation that I discussed as far as hard to blame. And my boy said the last week was terrible, but yeah. Once again, the Falcons lost 42-21, dropped to 6-7 in second place now. Y'all got y'all hands full now, Falcons, with 4 weeks remaining. But until next time, this has been an episode of All In with Nate. Enjoy the rest of the week of football. Thank God you ain't got to watch the Falcons on next Sunday. We don't play against the next Monday night. So I'll be doing my show probably that Tuesday afternoon. So be on the lookout for it. Hey, I appreciate that. Be on the lookout for it. But until next time, it's been an episode of All In with Nate. Y'all have a good rest of your night. And if you're in the fantasy playoffs, good luck the rest of the way. But I ain't saying a rise up because we ain't rose up in 4 weeks. Y'all have a good night.